So, April 2nd, 2019. Does that date, does it ring a bell for you at all?
For most people, probably not, right? It was just another Tuesday.
Yeah, I guess so.
Maybe you grabbed a sandwich, went to the gym. But in the history of the internet, and I mean specifically in the big dusty annals of Silicon Valley history,
Uh-huh.
it marks the end of a very specific, and I have to say, a very expensive and chaotic era.
That is the day Google Plus was officially shut down for consumers.
Oh, that's the one.
The day they finally pulled the plug, wiped the servers, and all those profiles just vanished into the ether.
It's the death of a giant, really, or at least what was supposed to be a giant.
Right.
It's the final chapter in a story that cost, hundreds of millions of dollars and involves some of the absolute smartest engineers on the planet.
It's incredible. And that's exactly what we're unpacking in this deep dive. We're going to look at the rise and, I guess, the spectacular fall of Google Plus A.
Which was their fourth attempt.
Right. Their fourth, and let's be honest, by far their most ambitious attempt at building a social network. This was not a side project.
No, this was a company betting initiative. All hands on deck.
And it is such a fascinating case study because of just the sheer scale of the contradiction here.
The paradox.
Yeah, you're looking at a platform that, on paper, was reporting hundreds of millions of active users.
At one point, it was technically the second largest social network in the world. It was nipping at Facebook's heels, numerically speaking.
And yet, at the exact same time, what was the label everyone used?
A ghost town.
A ghost town.
Yeah, that's the central mystery we have to explore. How do you have 500 million users and yet no one is there?
How is the user base larger than the entire population of the United States, but the cultural impact is like a tumbleweed blowing through an empty street?
It's an amazing question.
It's such a wild story. And we're not just talking about a failed website here. We're going to get into a full-blown corporate war with Facebook. A really controversial real names policy that just made people furious.
Oh, the Nim Wars.
Yes. And the Bob Army invading YouTube, which is a story I honestly cannot wait to get into.
And, of course, you can't forget the final nail in the coffin.
The massive data breach.
The security failure that basically gave Google the excuse they needed to finally, put the whole thing out of its misery.
Okay, so let's rewind.
Yeah.
We have to set the stage. Let's go all the way back to 2011. What was the vibe in the tech world then?
Well, in a word, fear, at least, inside the Googleplex in Mountain View.
Oh, yeah.
You got to remember, 2011, the internet was just a completely different landscape. Facebook wasn't just like a popular site.
Right.
It was becoming the internet for a huge, huge chunk of the population.
Because Google's whole mission was, to organize the world's information.
Exactly. Google owned the what? You want to know the capital of Peru? You ask Google. You want a recipe for lasagna? Google. They had the graph of information. But Facebook was organizing the world's people. They owned the who.
And that terrified Google.
It was a genuine existential threat. Think about it. If people stop searching for best pizza in New York on Google, and they just start asking their friends on Facebook, hey, where should I get dinner tonight?
Then Google's whole business model starts to crumble.
The whole thing. Their model is based on serving ads against search intent. If the intent moves to a walled garden like Facebook, they're in big trouble.
So they didn't just want a social network for fun or to be cool.
No, they needed the data. They needed what they called the social graph. They had to know who you knew, who you trusted, what your relationships were. Without that, they were basically flying blind into the new era of the web.
There's this book by a former Facebook employee, Antonio Garcia Martinez. It's called Chaos Monkeys.
Oh, a fantastic book.
And he actually describes the reaction inside Facebook when Google Plus launched.
The lockdown story, this is like Silicon Valley legend at this point.
It is. So tell us about that. Because we usually think of Google as the big bad wolf, but in this story, Facebook was the one sweating.
Oh, they were panicking. According to the book, the moment Google Plus was announced, Mark Zuckerberg initiated a company-wide lockdown.
And that wasn't just a figure of speech.
Not at all. It was like an air raid siren went off inside the company. The implication was that Google, with its infinite money, its infinite resources, and literally the smartest engineers in the world, was finally coming for them.
So nobody leaves the building until we kill this thing.
Pretty much. Zuckerberg apparently gathered all the employees around this famous lockdown sign, and he gave a speech. And he channeled Cato the Elder.
The Roman senator.
Yeah, the one who ended every single speech with, Carthage must be destroyed.
And he saw Google as Carthage.
He saw it as a war for their very survival. Employees were basically told to dedicate all their time, nights, weekends, everything, to bringing Facebook's features up to par with what Google was doing. They genuinely thought Google might just crush them.
It's so funny in retrospect, isn't it?
Yeah.
Knowing how it all played out.
It really is.
But at the time, Google already had a bit of a graveyard of social attempts, right? This wasn't their first rodeo.
Not at all. They had this string of failures that really set the stage for why Google Plus just had to succeed. I mean, first we had Google Wave.
RIP Wave.
Yeah.
I still maintain Wave was just ahead of its time. It was basically Slack before Slack existed.
It was incredibly complex, though. It tried to be email and instant messaging and a collaboration tool all at once, and I think it just confused everybody.
Fair enough. Then there was Google Buzz.
Oh, Buzz. The privacy disaster.
That was a huge one, right? It was
But
built into Gmail.
a huge disaster. It launched inside Gmail, and it automatically made you follow the people you emailed the most.
Oh, no.
Which sounds kind of convenient until you realize that people email their ex-spouses, their therapists, their business rivals, maybe a secret lover.
And it just exposed all those private networks to the public.
It did. And they got sued for it. Big time.
And then, of course, there was Orkut. I actually loved Orkut. But it was mostly big in Brazil and India, wasn't it?
Huge in Brazil and India. It was a genuine cultural phenomenon there. But it never, ever captured the U.S. market. And for a U.S.-centric company like Google, that just wasn't enough.
So by June 28th, 2011, the pressure's on. Larry Page had just taken over as CEO, and he made social a top priority.
Enter Google plus Brutus. It was led by two executives, Vik Ganotra and Bradley Horowitz. And the message from the top was crystal clear. This is the one that is going to work. This is not another side project.
And Vik Ganotra was a very charismatic leader, right? He was the public face of this.
He was the one who really pushed this vision. And the pitch wasn't just, Facebook, but with a different color scheme. They had a very specific philosophy.
This is the social layer concept. Okay, let's unpack this, because I really think it's the key to understanding both why it was so ambitious and why it ultimately failed.
It absolutely is. Vik Ganotra and his team, they didn't just want to build another destination website like Facebook.com, where you scroll for 20 minutes and then you leave.
Yo.
They wanted to build a social layer that would sit on top of literally everything Google did.
Like a blanket, just thrown over the entire Google ecosystem.
That's the perfect metaphor. Think about your average Google usage. You're using Search, you're using Maps, Gmail, YouTube, Drive, Android.
Right, they're all separate things.
But the idea was that Google Plus would be the connective tissue. You wouldn't just be a YouTube watcher or a Gmail user anymore. You would be a Google Plus user who just happened to be checking their email.
So that little red notification bell that we all remember, that would follow you from your email to your map to your search result.
That was the visual representation of it, a single unified identity. If you shared a location from Maps, you did it through Google Plus Siri. If you commented on a YouTube video, you did it through Google Plus Siri.
It was this attempt to unify all these separate, disparate products under one single social umbrella.
Which, from a corporate strategy perspective, it's actually kind of brilliant. You tie all your assets together.
But from a user perspective,
It felt a little invasive.
to say the least. But before we get to the backlash, we should probably give credit where credit is due.
We should.
The product itself, the actual interface of Google plus Met, it was full of some really interesting, even groundbreaking innovations.
Oh, for sure. The biggest one being circles.
Circles. That was the core differentiator, wasn't it? The thing they hung their entire hat on.
It was.
And I remember this so vividly. The interface was actually, really satisfying. You had these little bubbles that represented your friends.
Mm-hmm.
You would physically, or digitally, drag and drop them into these circles. Friends, family, work.
And there was a real logic to it, a kind of sociological logic. You have to think about Facebook at the time. Their model was totally reciprocal and binary. I friend you, you friend me, we are now friends, full stop.
Yeah. Right. And it doesn't matter if you're my best friend from kindergarten or, my boss, who I'm secretly terrified of. You're both in the exact same bucket.
And that creates what sociologists call context collapse.
Context collapse.
It means all your different social contexts, your work life, your family life, your party life, they all just collapse into a single feed. And that creates a chilling effect.
Because you don't want to share your photos from the bar on Saturday night because your boss might see them.
Exactly. And you don't want to share some boring article about spreadsheets because all your friends from college will be bored to death.
So you end up just sharing nothing. Or just really safe vanilla stuff like, happy birthday, Aunt Carol.
Precisely. And Circles was Google's way of saying, hey, social life isn't binary. You share different things with different groups of people, so you should be able to post a photo just to your college buddies circle and an article just to your work colleagues circle.
It was smart. I mean, it really acknowledged nuance.
It was very smart. The problem, which I think we all realized pretty quickly, is that managing all that nuance it's work.
That's the catch, isn't it?
It requires cognitive load. You have to actually sit there and sort every single human being, into a specific bucket.
Yeah. Is Dave a friend or is he an acquaintance? And if I put him in acquaintance, is he going to know? Is he going to be offended?
It's stressful. Dragging people into Circles was fun for like the first 10 minutes because the animation was cool and made that little clunk sound.
I remember that.
But then it just felt like digital filing. It felt like doing your taxes.
Whereas Facebook, for all its problems, was just low friction. You add someone, you're done.
Yeah.
Google Plus required you to be the librarian of your own social life.
Exactly.
But they had other features, too, that were genuinely ahead of their time. Let's talk about Hangouts.
Okay, Hangouts was legit amazing. This was 2011.
Yeah, this was years before Zoom became a verb.
Years. At the time, if you wanted to do a video chat, you used Skype. And Skype was mostly one-to-one, unless you wanted to pay for their premium features.
Right.
Hangouts offered multi-person video chat for free right in the browser. No clunky downloads.
And people really used it. I remember recording podcasts on Hangouts. I knew Dungeons and Dragons groups that ran their entire campaigns on Hangouts.
It was built on early WebRTC technology. It was pretty seamless. You could have 10 people on a call. It really democratized video conferencing for consumers. That was a real stickiness factor that Google Plus had over Facebook at the time.
And then there was photos.
The unsung hero. Or, well, maybe the sung hero, since it's the part that actually survived.
True, they had cloud-based albums and these really cool editing tools. Do you remember Auto Awesome?
I do. It sounded like a silly marketing gimmick, but it was actually some pretty powerful machine learning under the hood.
How did that work again?
You'd upload a burst of photos, say like 5 pictures of your kid jumping into a swimming pool. Google servers would analyze them and then automatically stitch them together into a GIF animation.
Oh, right.
Or if you took a group photo and somebody was blinking in one frame but they were smiling in another, it could merge them to create like the perfect shot where everyone looks good.
It felt like magic at the time. It was computational photography before that was even a buzzword.
It really was, and that technology was highly, highly praised. A lot of professional photographers actually flocked to Google Plus just because the image compression was so much better than Facebook's. Your photos just looked better there.
And then we had the +1 button.
Their answer to the like button.
But it wasn't just for posts inside Google +1, was it?
No, and this goes right back to that social layer concept. The +1 button was designed to be spread all across the web. You'd see it on news sites, on blogs, on e-commerce stores.
Huh.
The idea was that you could recommend content across the entire internet, and all of that data would feed back into Google's search and social graph.
It was like they were trying to paint the entire web with their own colors.
That's a great way to put it. And there was one more thing. Sparks.
Ah, Sparks. I totally forgot about Sparks.
Most people did. It was a feature that was removed by, I think, November of 2012. It was basically a front end for Google Search that was designed to find shareable topics.
Oh, to solve the empty feed problem.
Exactly. You'd pick an interest like cycling or baking, and it would just feed you articles to share with your circles. It never really took off.
So on paper, this sounds amazing. You've got better privacy controls with Circles, you've got better video with Hangouts, better photo tools, and the full might of Google Search behind it.
Right.
And the launch numbers, they reflected that excitement, didn't they?
Oh, they did. The growth was explosive. I mean, historic, really. 2 weeks after it launched, they had 10 million users.
Wow. 2 weeks.
By the end of 2011, so just a few months later, 90 million.
That is incredibly fast.
It was the fastest uptake of a social network ever up to that point. And by October 2013, they were reporting 540 million monthly active users.
540 million. 500 million people.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just hear that number, you'd think game over, Facebook. You'd think the war was won.
You absolutely would. But this is where we have to put on our detective hats and really dig into that ghost town reality check.
Right.
Because In the tech world, the definition of an active user can be, let's say, malleable.
It's like the difference between having a gym membership and actually, doing a squat. Two very different things.
That's the perfect analogy. There's a famous set of data that came out from Comscore in January 2012. This was about 6 months after the launch.
Okay.
They looked at the average time a user spent on the site per month. Not just did you log in, but how long did you actually stay?
Okay, hit me with a comparison. Facebook's versus Google plus Fort.
All right. On Facebook, the average user was spending 7.5 hours per month.
7.5 hours. Okay. That's a lot of scrolling.
It is. And on Google Plus, 3.3 minutes.
Minutes.
Minutes. Wait, hold on. 3.3 minutes per month.
Per month.
That's barely enough time to load the page. That's like you accidentally click a link, realize where you are, and immediately close the tab.
That is essentially what was happening. And that was the engagement gap. And then in February 2014, the New York Times ran this huge article that officially likened Google Plus to a ghost town.
And they had data to back that up.
They did. They noted that nearly half of the so-called active users didn't actually visit the site at all.
So how could Google possibly claim 540 million users if nobody was visiting? I mean, were they just lying?
Not lying, exactly, but defining user in a way that served their narrative.
Oh.
It goes right back to the social layer. If you signed up for Gmail, what happened? You got a Google Plus account automatically.
Right.
If you commented on a YouTube video, boom, you were technically using Google Plus Way.
Mm-hmm.
If you clicked the +1 button on some random blog you were reading, that counted as a social interaction. I see. So they were basically inflating the numbers by counting anyone who even touched a Google product as a social user.
And Google's defense was, the value isn't just in the stream the newsfeed part, but in gathering all this identity data across all of our services. We're unifying the experience.
But to the outside world, and maybe more critically to advertisers, it just looked like an empty stadium.
You can force everyone to have a ticket, but you can't force them to actually watch the game.
Exactly. And it wasn't just that it was empty. The people who were there, well, Google managed to make a lot of them really, really angry. Which brings us to the controversies. And there were a few, but the biggest one early on, the one that really poisoned the well from the start, was the NIM Wars.
NIM Wars, the war on pseudonyms. This was a massive ideological battle.
When they launched in July 2011, Google Plus had a strict policy. You had to use your real name, like the name on your driver's license.
Which just seems very strict, doesn't it?
Incredibly strict, and the enforcement was really aggressive. Accounts were getting suspended left and right if they used pseudonyms or nicknames or even stage names.
So if I'm a gamer and my handle is DragonSlayer99, I can't be DragonSlayer99 on Google Plus.
You have to be John Smith. And if you're a musician known to the world as Lady Gaga, you have to be Stefani Germanotta.
And this went so much deeper than just gamers and pop stars, right? I mean, think about political activists.
For sure.
Think about people living in dangerous political climates who absolutely need anonymity to speak freely. Or think about victims of domestic abuse who do not want to be found by their abusers.
Oh, right. It's a huge safety issue. A massive one.
It was a massive backlash about privacy and safety. Google's logic was that they wanted a clean environment for advertisers. Real people, real data, high accountability. They thought anonymity just bred toxicity.
But the internet culture just revolted against that.
Completely. They saw it as Google trying to impose some kind of corporate ID card on the wild, messy web.
So they backed down.
Eventually. But it was a really slow, painful retreat. They started supporting pseudonyms in January 2012, and then by July 2014, they finally dropped the name restriction entirely.
But the damage was done.
By then, the reputation of the platform was set. It was seen as the man. It was the narc at the party who's asking to see your ID.
And speaking of being hostile to internet culture,
yeah,
we have to talk about YouTube.
The 2013 integration disaster, this is one for the history books.
This might be the moment I remember most clearly from the whole saga. November 6, 2013.
The day Google decides that, from now on, to comment on a YouTube video, you must have a Google Plus account.
Why? I mean, why would you force that? YouTube was doing just fine on its own.
Well, the rationale was actually somewhat noble, if you kind of squint at it. They wanted to clean up the cesspool of YouTube comments.
I mean, that's a fair point. YouTube comments are legendary for being just awful.
And the logic was, if we force people to use their real identities via Google Plus On, the trolling will stop. People behave better when their real name is attached to their words.
Okay, that makes sense. Did it work?
It backfired so spectacularly. It was a full-scale revolt. The YouTube community, which just prizes anonymity and freedom of expression, absolutely hated it.
And this is where Bob comes in.
Yes, the ASCII art army.
You have to explain this for people who maybe weren't spending their life in comment sections back in 2013.
So users started spamming the comment sections with ASCII art pictures that are made out of text characters.
Right.
And specifically, they were images of tanks and little stick figures. And the stick figure was always named Bob.
A stick figure army.
And the text would usually say something like, "This is Bob. Bob is building an army to fight against Google+." It was this massive coordinated protest. The comment sections became completely unusable.
So instead of cleaning up the spam, the integration just increased it exponentially.
It was basically a denial of service attack carried out by the users against their own platform.
And it wasn't just the trolls, was it? Even the founders of YouTube were mad.
Oh, yeah. Jawed Karim, one of the co-founders, he hadn't posted on his own channel in years. He came back to the very first video ever uploaded to YouTube, me at the zoo, and he posted a comment.
What did he say?
He said, "Why the fangpei do I need a Google Plus account to comment on a video?"
Wow. When the literal founder of the platform is dropping F-bombs on your new feature, you know you've messed up.
It just highlighted the fundamental problem. Google was prioritizing its own business goal, which was growing Google Plus, over the user experience of its other, much more successful products.
They were willing to actively degrade YouTube just to prop up Google Plus trap.
Exactly. And they were doing the same thing with search, too.
Right. Search plus your world.
Sounds like a cheesy marketing slogan, doesn't it?
It really does. So what was it?
It was a feature where they started inserting Google Plus content and profiles directly into the general Google web search results.
So if I search for something like pizza, I might see my friend's Google Plus post about pizza.
Exactly. And more importantly, if you searched for a person's name, their Google Plus profile would show up prominently on the right-hand side, often above their Twitter or their Facebook or their LinkedIn profile.
That feels a little unfair.
Well, the criticism was that it was blatantly anti-competitive. They were favoring their own social network over more relevant results from Twitter or Flick or Facebook.
It started to attract the attention of antitrust regulators.
It did. It looked like they were using their monopoly in search to bully their way into the social market. The classic putting your thumb on the scale.
And there's one more controversy that's just a bizarre little anecdote. The Obama campaign spam.
This one is so strange.
I haven't heard this one.
So in 2012, for reasons that are still kind of mysterious, the restrictions on Google Plus in China were suddenly relaxed. Just for a moment.
Which is weird because usually the Great Firewall blocks most Google services.
Exactly. And so Chinese users realized they could suddenly access it, and they all flooded Barack Obama's official Google Plus campaign page.
With what? Messages of support?
With everything. Jokes, off-topic comments, calls for political liberation, just random memes. They effectively occupied the page.
Wow.
It was this sudden, chaotic influx of users from a region where the service was normally blocked. It just showed how unpredictable and unstable these platforms can be when the floodgates suddenly open.
So we have the ghost town metrics, we have the angry YouTubers, the pseudonym wars, the antitrust concerns. It really feels like the writing is on the wall at this point. So when did the pivot finally happen? When did they basically admit defeat?
It all started around 2014. The first big domino to fall was Vic Gundotra,
The father of Google Plus plan.
the man whose vision this entire project was. He departs the company in April of 2014.
And when the captain leaves the ship.
The ship is usually in trouble, so the leadership shuffles a bit. David Besbris takes over for a short time, and then Bradley Horowitz steps in by 2015. And Horowitz is the one who announces a huge shift.
This is the great unbundling.
Correct. Google finally realized that the social layer strategy, the idea of forcing everything to be Google plus Ed, was failing. In fact, it was actively hurting their other products.
So they decided to break it apart.
They decided to take the good parts, the parts people actually liked, and let them live on their own.
Right.
So in May 2015, at their big Google I/O conference, they announced Google Photos as a completely standalone product.
Which was a massive, massive success.
Huge. It's still one of their best and most beloved products today. They realized people wanted the unlimited photo storage and the cool AI editing tools, but they did not want the social network that was attached to it.
And Hangouts also moved to be a standalone service.
It did.
So what happened to the actual social network part? You know, the stream
It was refocused. They did a big redesign in November of 2015, and they shifted the focus entirely to communities and collections.
Collection sounds a bit like Pinterest.
It was very much a Pinterest-style curation feature, and communities were just topic-based groups. They tried to pivot from connect with everyone you know, which, Facebook had clearly won, to connect with people who like the same weird stuff that you do.
Which is actually a totally valid strategy. It's what Reddit is. It's what Discord is.
It is. And to be fair to the Google Plus team, for a while there was this dedicated core user base that really loved this new version. Photographers, Linux enthusiasts, tabletop gamers. It became a much quieter, more interest-based network.
But I'm guessing quieter doesn't really pay the bills at Google scale.
No. And it definitely doesn't justify the massive infrastructure cost of running the thing. But what ultimately killed it, it wasn't the lack of users, it was the liability.
The security failures. Okay, this is the final demise.
Project Strobe.
That sounds like a techno-thriller movie.
Mm.
The Strobe Protocol.
It really does. So Project Strobe was a big internal review of all developer access to Google accounts. This was 2018, and privacy was suddenly a huge topic.
Right. GDPR was coming in Europe. Cambridge Analytica had just happened with Facebook.
So Google is, checking its own house for leaks.
And they found one.
They found a big one. In the spring of 2018, they discovered a bug in the Google Plus API.
And the API is what lets other apps talk to Google Plus way, right?
Exactly. Like, if you play a mobile game and it says, log in with Google Plus to save your high score, that game is using the API.
Yeah.
And the bug allowed these third-party apps to access non-public profile fields.
Like what kind of fields?
Things like your name, email address, occupation, gender, age, even if the user had specifically set those fields to be private in their settings.
Oof. That is a huge breach of trust. How many people were affected?
Potentially hundreds of thousands. The estimate was up to 500,000 accounts. But the real scandal wasn't just the bug. I mean, software has bugs. The scandal was Google's reaction to it.
The cover-up.
Right. The Wall Street Journal broke the story that Google chose not to disclose the breach immediately. They found it, they patched it, but they didn't tell anyone. Fear of regulatory scrutiny. An internal memo leaked, and it basically said that disclosing it would draw immediate comparisons to Facebook's Cambridge Analytica scandal, and it would invite this huge, unwanted spotlight from regulators.
So they just stayed quiet. That is not a good look.
No, it looks incredibly guilty. And then, as if the universe has a very dark sense of irony, in December of 2018, they found a second bug.
You are kidding me.
A software update introduced another API bug, and this one affected 52.5 million users.
52 million. That is a massive jump from 500,000.
For 6 days, app developers could access private data that they shouldn't have been able to see.
Okay, that has to be the final nail.
It was. Google announced the shutdown almost immediately. Originally, they had planned for a slow sunset ending in August 2019, but after that second breach, they moved the date up to April 2, 2019.
They just wanted it gone. It had become a toxic asset.
They officially cited low usage, and they shared that stat, that 90% of user sessions lasted less than 5 seconds, and the extreme difficulty of maintaining the product securely. They basically said, look, nobody is using this, and it's creating a massive security hole for us. We're out.
So was there a lawsuit? Because 52 million people having their data exposed usually leads to a few lawyers getting involved.
There was indeed a class action lawsuit. It eventually settled for $7.5 million.
$7.5 million. For a company the size of Google, that sounds low.
It's pocket change. And when you divide that amount by the number of people who actually filed a claim...
How much did people get?
If you filed a claim and it was approved, you received a payment of about $2.15.
$2.15.
Yes.
That's the official value of our Google Plus privacy, I guess.
It's symbolic at best. It'll buy you a very, very small coffee.
So, April 2019, it's all shut down. The consumer version is wiped from existence. Users were told to download their data using Google Takeout.
Which is a whole project in itself. If you've ever used Takeout, you just get these giant zip files full of inscrutable JSON data.
It's not exactly user-friendly.
Yeah.
But the tech didn't completely disappear, did it? We mentioned photos.
Photos is the big survivor. It took the best of the image algorithms and just became a staple product for them.
What about on the business side of things?
Right. So Google Plus for G Suite, the enterprise version, it didn't die immediately. It was rebranded as Google Currents.
Currents. I feel like I've heard that name from Google before.
They love recycling names.
Yeah.
There was an old app called Currents that was a news reader, but this new Currents was meant for internal business communication, sort of like a corporate Facebook.
And did that last?
Nope. It was eventually shut down and folded into Google Chat in 2023. They merged it into the Spaces feature.
And there was one more attempt, right, after it all died, something called Shoelace.
Ah, Shoelace, yes. It launched in July 2019, just a few months after Google Plus was buried. It was a very experimental app from Area 120, which is Google's internal incubator.
And what was the idea behind that?
It was all about organizing local events and activities. The idea was to tie people together like shoelaces.
You.
It was strictly mobile, strictly local. It was really trying to be the anti-Facebook. Small groups focused on real-world interaction.
Let me guess. It didn't work.
Well, just look at the timeline. It launched in mid-2019. It was an app designed to get people to meet up in person.
And then 2020 happened.
By May 2020, the pandemic is raging. It's kind of hard to launch an app about meeting strangers in person when the entire world goes into lockdown.
That is just spectacularly bad luck.
It really is. So, yeah, it was shut down.
Okay, so let's wrap this all up. We have gone from Facebook killer to ghost town to security risk. What is the ultimate legacy here? What's the big takeaway?
I think the biggest lesson is the absolute failure of forcing social.
You just can't make people be friends.
You can't. You can build the features.
Yeah.
Circles were smart. Photos were beautiful. Hangouts were genuinely useful. But you cannot mandate the social connection itself.
It's like they treated their users like inventory. We have these millions of people. Let's just move them over to this new product.
Exactly, and people resent that. Social networks are these delicate, organic ecosystems. They have to grow from genuine desire, not from corporate obligation.
And looking back on it all now, Google Plus might have been right about one thing.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
The circles.
How so?
Well, look at how we actually use social media today. People are posting less and less on their public feeds, like on Facebook or X. Where is the real conversation happening now?
It's in group chats. It's in Discord servers, Slack communities, close friends, stories on Instagram, WhatsApp groups.
Exactly. We are using circles. We're just not doing it under one single corporate roof. We want those small, specific, context-aware groups. We want to share the dumb meme with our friends and the baby photo with our grandma and never have the two meet.
That is a fascinating point. Google Plus actually predicted the future fragmentation of social media, that desire for privacy and context. But they tried to execute it in a way that just felt unnatural and corporate.
They built the right house, but they put it in a neighborhood nobody actually wanted to live in.
And then they locked the doors and told everyone they had to stay.
Not the best strategy for building a community.
Not at all.
So here's a final provocative thought for you to chew on. Google Plus failed because it tried to be this layer on top of everything. It wanted to be the single identity passport for the entire internet.
Right.
But today, what do we use to log into everything? We use sign in with Google. We use Google Photos to back up our memories.
Right.
We use YouTube. We use Gmail.
We do. All of those things.
So in a weird way, did they actually win? The social network died, but that identity layer is stronger than it has ever been. Did they end up getting what they really wanted, the data, the tracking, the identity graph, just without the constant headache of having to run a newsfeed?
That is a very provocative question. They lost the battle for your attention, but maybe they won the war for your identity.
Something to think about the next time you click that sign in with Google button. Thanks for listening to this deep dive.
Until next time.